gotta dream it, like you mean it. Embrace the vision, no need to conceal it. There's a masterpiece, the colors so bright. Aim for the stars, reach new heights. Align your life, don't let it design you. Chase your dreams, make them all come true. Dance to the rhythm, move with the beat. You're the creator, get up on your feet. Yeah, you gotta dream it, like you mean it. Embrace the vision, no need to conceal it. Vision masterpiece, the colors so bright. Aim for the stars, reach new heights. Design your life, don't let it design you. Chase your dreams, make them all come true. Dance to the rhythm, move with the beat. You're the creator, get up on your feet.
Peace, peace, peace. What's up? What's good? What's happening? This is Coach Bay, and this is another episode of Design Your Life. And today I'm extremely happy and excited about the guest that we have. But before we introduce the guest, just make sure that you understand what this is all about. This podcast is about highlighting individuals and exposing you to individuals that have crafted a beautiful life around their dreams, their goals, their passions and aspirations in life. And it's an opportunity for you to really never have the opportunity to say that you didn't know. I know for me, growing up, there were questions I just did not know I should ask. There were answers that I didn't know were really important. So this is an opportunity for you to really tap into your virtual mentor and see it as it's been done at the highest level. So I want to introduce our guest, but I got to make sure I bring him on the right way. This brother, we go way, way back, and I just want to say that our relationship spans over many, many years. But he's a father, he's a husband, he's a former track athlete, federally authorized tax practitioner, enrolled agent and owner of Hudson Tax Services. He's an entrepreneur, has been interviewed by Forbes. Hudson Tax Services is the winner of the 2024 Philadelphia Inquirer Philly Favorite Award. He's a family man, but he's also family. My man, 50 grand, Desmond Hudson.
What's
What's going on?
bad. I like that. That was a nice little intro there. Oh,
What's up, man?
I'm
Hey,
good.
I
I'm
do
good.
it right.
I can't complain. I can't. It's kind of nice to hear that. Like, okay.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Listen, when we had our conversation, sometimes sometimes when people are humble, they don't give themselves enough flowers. All right?
Yeah,
They don't give themselves enough flowers and credit. And we're gonna talk about a bunch of different things, but you shaking some stuff up, man, and I'm proud of you.
I
Sure.
appreciate that. Just
sure.
trying to live my best life, man.
100%. That's what it's all about, and helping other people see that it's possible to do the same thing.
Right. Facts.
So we're gonna start at the beginning. So I know where you're from, but I want you to take us back to the beginning, where you're born and raised,
Right.
and what it was like growing up, like what it felt like, smelled like, looked like, in the neighborhood when you grew up.
Well, yeah, so I mean, I'm a Mount Airy dude, right? So, I guess for the listeners, Mount Airy, I guess they don't even call it Mount Airy no more. Oh, they call it like Uptown now. Everything is Uptown, like Mount Airy, West Oak Lane, Germantown. Like they really don't like go by those.
It's
those
all
areas.
Uptown.
It's all called Uptown now. But
listen, you ain't gonna take away my West Oak Lane, though.
That's exactly. But nah. So I grew up in Mount Airy. I still call it Mount Airy. But I mean, Mount Airy is the east side of Philadelphia. It's they say it's the nicer side, right? We had like a lawn in the front, backyard, things like that. You know what I mean? Twin houses. But no, I grew up in Mount Airy. I had a kind of a short-lived stay, I would say, in Mount Airy because I wound up going away from school. But I think my initial Mount Airy experience, I had things going on when I was younger. I think at a young age, getting into things and just having, I guess, the ADD issues going on. I was one of those kids that just couldn't sit still. Had a lot going on in school, driving my mom crazy.
Okay.
And
a lot of energy.
A lot of energy.
Yeah.
And I probably went to like 5 or 6 different schools before the 5th grade. You know what I mean? I was that that got moved around a lot.
So not like you wasn't a fighter.
I wasn't the
Right.
D. I mean, I got in fights, but I wasn't the
Right.
fighter. Like I
Right.
wasn't bullying and like try to
Yeah.
create problems. But I mean, people get in fights because people get in fights. But I wasn't
Yeah.
out there creating havoc. I was the clown, the class clown, or the kid that couldn't sit still, or
Got you.
the one that
You was
wasn't doing
Chappelle
his
before
homework.
Chappelle.
Yeah, yeah. I was just the knucklehead. That's probably like I was just running around doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing.
Got you.
And I think my mom was like, "What we gonna do with you? Like, we got to figure something out because I can't keep moving you
For
around the
sure. For sure.
schools." And I think that's where my whole Scotland world kind of jumped off. But
We're
yeah,
gonna
I
talk
mean,
about Scott. We'll talk about Scotland.
yeah, but yeah, I think just I mean, I had like like most of my friends, I think that I grew up with, were in different things, as I got older. And I think in hindsight, I look at it as a blessing that I probably was meant to not be home when I,
Okay.
going to Scotland. But yeah, I had a good youth. I was a big
For
church
sure.
person. My mom take me, we go to church every Sunday, Saturday, Sunday school. I actually got friends to this day that I used to go to church with. So I was a big church going person. Not that I'm not now, but I was definitely heavily. I guess I had no choice at that age. I was
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
church
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
Sunday, Saturday, probably 3 days a week. My mom was definitely a big church
Okay.
kid.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, I had really good friends on the block that I'm still good with right now. That I call like my brothers and sisters. So I had a really good youth. Lived growing up in my area. I have no complaints. It was a good time. Still good friends to this day. So it's I enjoyed it,
Right.
and I grew up in an area that I thought I was safe too. Philadelphia can be kind of hectic,
Can be
but
crazy,
I
especially
was in a
back in
good
that,
space.
that
Yeah,
during that
back in that
time.
day, definitely was a lot going on. I
I
would say
remember.
definitely say I was
Man, I
sheltered from all
remember.
that.
I remember because for those who don't know, so West Oak Lane and Mount Airy are basically neighboring neighborhoods
Right,
in Philly, and I remember, I don't know, man, I might have been 12, 13, or something like that. And this is when like you had like, I don't even know if you really call them gangs or whatever, but you had like the FTC
right, right,
and the
right,
HRM and all these. And I
right,
remember I was walking through the neighborhood and it was snow on the cars, and somebody had written in one of the windshields like HRM or FTC, and I just remember I was like kind of shook, like because they was like
right,
that was like a problem like in the neighborhood,
right, right,
so
right,
during that
right.
time frame, like you had people that were in that life, but then you had just kind of like the regular neighborhood guys. And
Right.
it,
Like
it,
in
it
my area, you would have had like the Wadsworth kids or the Vernon Road
right,
kids. Like they had different little pockets of areas too, as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Probably the
yeah,
worst thing that happened to me, I got my like, remember the little Space Invader hats or the Playboy hats that everybody used to wear back in the
yeah,
day?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
I got my hat snatched off my head, like stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like it's just
Right,
being knucklehead and stuff like that. But I ain't never get caught up in nothing crazy. But you definitely had neighborhoods, right? So you just
right,
certain areas. At least if you bang with people in that area, you can go in that area. But it definitely,
right.
I think that's Philly anyway. It's a city of neighborhoods. You know what I mean?
No, no, for
Supposed
sure.
to
I
be
mean,
around
if you
somewhere. You ain't supposed to
you
be around somewhere.
no, exactly. It's like Ogans was like the divider, and
Right.
you didn't
Right.
really like go across Ogans unless
Right.
you really knew some people over there, because you
Exactly.
go over there, you probably gonna get chased back
Exactly.
across Ogans,
Exactly. Right. You go
right?
over there with somebody, or you going to
Right,
go see somebody, right? So it's
right,
kind of like, and they like, who you going to go see? I'm gonna go see my man, yada yada. You know what I mean? So
right.
you good? Yeah, yeah. That's
For
just how
sure,
it
for
is.
sure. Okay, so what did your parents do growing
So
up?
my mom and dad, they were probably together up until I want to say third or fourth grade of
Okay,
and they wound up splitting. They both were worked at the supermarket though. Pathmark.
okay,
Remember Pathmark? I remember Pathmark.
for sure.
But my mom and I mean my mom and dad, but my dad was like an entrepreneurial spiritual type person. He definitely
Okay,
I don't want to say the word hustler because I hate when somebody say I'm a hustler because I like to do entrepreneurial stuff. But he always was out trying to figure out different ways of making money outside of the traditional 9 to 5. So he
okay,
had entrepreneurial spirit, and that's maybe where I get some of it from.
yeah,
And my mom worked 9 to 5 at a supermarket. I mean, she wasn't a 9 to 5, or she might have been like, the late shift. Like I was like one of the latchkey kids, you know what I mean? So she's kind of working that 3 to 11 shift, or
Right.
I remember my mom working a lot, you know what I mean? My mom definitely
Right.
worked a lot. And she worked for Pathmark, until she retired. Like she was in that space forever. So yeah, that's my dad was a army person. And my
Okay.
mom had a high school education. She graduated from Germantown. But yeah, they were just basic, regular old folks, just trying to make ends meet.
Yeah.
My mom definitely worked hard, and I'm pretty sure she got a lot of overtime to make sure that we was all good. We were in Mount Airy; it was a good area.
Right.
She did what she had to do to just make sure that we was good. So, and
Okay.
like my mom, like it's funny because I learned things about my mom as I got older. She like we grew, well, my family is from Georgia, right? So my mom
Okay.
migrated up here on her own. Like she was at a certain point in her life was like, I'm out of here. I don't want to be in
Yeah.
core Georgia no more. That's where we grew up. They grew up, and kind of just up and left. Her and my aunt. My aunt kind of like jumped bail first, and then she was like, "I'm leaving too," and she just kind of came up here and just established herself. Found housing,
And
and
this was the first stop. Philly was the first stop.
Philly was her stop. She came here and been here ever since. She got the job. I guess she got the
Okay.
Pathmark job, and she made ends meet and was good. Started a family. Me and my brother, we was good. You know what I mean? So we didn't struggle. I wouldn't say I had a struggle, growing up. I don't
Yeah.
think we
Yeah.
was rich. You know what I'm saying? But we were
Yeah.
good. We were good. I ain't
No,
got no.
no, for sure. And that's what's up. I didn't know that. So they were from Georgia, and she
Yep.
just up and was like, "I'm out."
Yep. My dad was from New York. My mom
Okay.
was from Georgia. Yep. And I think I don't know the full story. What got my dad to Philly, but I know they met in Philly. And they probably met at Pathmark, basically.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the apple's out or something.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
All right. So when you was a kid, like, did you have like big dreams and stuff that you wanted to do, big goals, or were you just like every day I'm just living and it's just,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
would not. I am not the child that grew up with this vision of being this or that. I do remember having thoughts of wanting to be a pilot. Like I wanted,
Okay.
like I was intrigued with like just seeing a pilot and flying a plane. But it's nothing I ever like pursued. You know what I'm saying? It was nothing
For
I
sure.
ever jumped in and took classes to do. But it was like one of those. Oh, it'd be cool to be a pilot. But I think I was just so busy. I was just my mind was all over the place. I couldn't focus. I was going day by day. Oh, to be honest,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
have any crazy dreams. Things didn't kick into me to really, I would say, college. Real talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Really, like it's funny. I like I'm jumping all over the place, but I think
It's
about
all
my
good.
daughter. My daughter was me. My daughter was all over the place,
Is that
and
right?
she didn't find herself into like college or like when she was 22, 23. Like that's
Yeah.
around the same time I kind of found myself. So I was all over the place and up until early 20s. And my daughter kind of followed that same path with ironically.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I
Big
think
shout
about
out to Demi.
yeah, Demi's
Big
doing
shout out to
her big
Demi.
in her best life right now. But
That's what's up.
so yeah,
That's what's
yeah.
up. So that's interesting. All right. So what did you like to do though? So
I
for
was in
me,
sports.
okay.
I did track when I got to high school and college, but I also ran around the way. I was in Philadelphia Express. I definitely was in like the track
What's
space.
Philly Express? What's Philly Express?
So Philly Express is like, so you know how like they have neighborhood sports. So that was like the neighborhood track team. So Philly
Got you.
Express,
Got
where
you.
people would run for Philly Express. So I did that. Played basketball, of course, neighborhood basketball courts.
Yeah.
But those are probably the main two sporting things, events that I did. But I really didn't play like Fully Express was probably the most organized thing I did, and that was track. I think with basketball, my mom sent me to some camps and stuff like that. If you talk about organized, but outside of that, just hood ball, playing basketball at the neighborhood courts and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
So Philly Express, because I know we'll talk about the high school and the track and all that, but so Philly Express track. So when did you start running track? How that was young?
That was young, man. That might have been, that had it been like third, fourth grade. And it was, you think about being a parent now, your parent put you in something, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
my mom was probably like, we need to do something with this energy. It wasn't like I
Run it off.
aspired to just like, oh, I want to, hey, mom, put me in a track camp. No, my mom probably was like, we need to put you in something to burn off some of this energy. And,
Right, right.
somebody probably came to Pad Park was like, you do know they got this track, this track team that you might want to put your kid in. So here I am just showing up, running races and things like that. I would be honest to say I don't recall like if I was good or bad. I do remember being on a team and just running with
Hmm.
kids, like, but I couldn't go and say, and I got all these awards from it. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Right,
I
right,
wasn't
right.
like the bull and Philly Express that's on somebody's wall. But
Right, 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 for
my
sure.
mom put me in track, like she probably put me in Sunday school and all the different things. She just like, we gotta keep this dude busy. You know what I
No,
mean?
no, 100%, 100%. I mean, especially again, back then, it's just so much stuff to get into
Right.
that if you just idle, whether you got a lot of energy or not, but if you just
Exactly.
idle, especially back then, it's just even
Yes.
now, I guess, kids get into a lot of different stuff, but the outside can be crazy if you don't
That's
have
true.
anything to do.
I
You
think
know what I
that's
mean?
what's missing right now with a lot of these kids. They just outside without any direction. Like, and some of them kids
Yeah.
need to be into this and be into that. And if you compare now to what we had growing up, there's a lot of outlets that people can get
Oh
into.
yeah,
You can
for
do
sure.
karate and soccer and softball and miniature this and golfing. You can do golfing now as a kid. My
Yeah,
nephew's
yeah.
doing all kinds of things. So there's definitely a lot of that right now. But I don't think we had all those options growing up. But they
Yeah.
definitely still put you on. So I think church was probably the thing that I was probably the
Mm-hmm.
most in, like Sunday school. I know I was going to church like 3 times a week plus Sunday. You
Okay.
know what I mean? So
Okay. All right.
that definitely Bible study. You know what I mean? Like I
You
was
were singing
in
in the
there.
choir?
I was in the choir. I was the
Okay.
usher. I was in
Okay.
all that. I was the youth choir, the usher, doing plays, Bible study. Like I knew all the books in the Bible at one point.
Okay.
Like I definitely was like locked into all that. Like when I was funny because I don't go to church as much now, but I'm like, no, I
Yeah.
know to go to church. You know what I mean? It's like
Right,
songs I
right.
just know because I was
That
in
is just
church.
it's baked in.
It's baked in.
No,
I
for
was
sure.
singing something the other day, and my wife was like, "You, how you know that song?" I was like, "I don't even know how I know that. It's just baked in my
Yeah.
brain from when
No,
I was a
no.
kid." Yeah.
100%. 100%. Okay. All right. So talk to me, like fast forward a little bit. Talk to me about Scotland.
So yeah, Scotland.
What is Scotland? Because if I'm
No,
not
that's a good
mistaken, I
question.
think if I read correctly, I think Scotland closed down
They did. They
in like
closed down in
2008 or something
2000.
like that.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, yeah,
So I mean, Scotland been around since like the 1800s. So
yeah.
it's called Scotland School for Veterans Children. That's like the
Right,
full name of it.
right,
And to go to Scotland, you have to be a veteran child. And my dad was a veteran. And I don't even think it had to be like an immediate parent. It needed to be somebody in your family that was somewhat of a veteran, and you are allowed to go up there.
got
So
you.
that was your in. And then, I mean, if I'm being just frank and honest, I think a lot of parents also took advantage of that because there was, I mean, it wasn't sweet. You know what I'm saying? You go up
Yeah,
there and you're with a lot of kids like me, kids that just couldn't like operate at home, right? And they were probably getting
right,
into stuff, and it was like, we need to find a place to get you out of this environment that you in because things
right.
could go bad for you and put you up in another space and to kind of like keep you safe and not get caught up. Like for real, I know a lot of my friends when I were younger were in jail or hustling or just in a lot of things when I came back home. So it's like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
maybe I did like kind of get saved from being into certain things. But a lot of people that's up there was, also busy like that. So you're kind of bringing a whole bunch of people to a certain school that are, you could be a little bit off the hook. You got a lot of,
They still getting into it, but they
you
just
still
getting
can get
into
into
it.
it where
Yeah,
you're somewhat boxed in though at a school where you ain't
yeah.
doing nothing too crazy. You're just doing stuff to each other. You know what I mean? But
Right, right, right.
but yeah, no. So Scotland, yeah. So I mean, it's a place that you hate when you're there, but
Okay.
you love it when you're gone. So I had a conversation with a Scotland friend, and I'll circle back to just meeting that person, like I did. Like, we're family. Like, it's literally like a family or a fraternity of just
Okay.
brothers and sisters that all have like a shared experience
Yeah, yeah.
that nobody will understand unless you went there. Like, we lived in cottages, we woke up and
Okay.
did details. We
Okay.
had junior reserve officer training corps. Like, we did PT in the morning. Like, it was an experience that it's hard to even explain to anyone
So
unless
for
you.
me, it's like, is it like kind of like a boarding school? It's
It
like
is
a
a
lot
boarding
of
school.
discipline. Okay.
It's totally a boarding school with discipline.
Got
Like
you.
the light, like if I was talking on a lighter side, it's like, oh, I went to a military school, but it really
Okay.
wasn't a military school. You know what I mean?
Right,
But
right.
it wasn't Glen Mills. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
But
right,
it wasn't
right.
Hershey either. You know, so it
Right.
was in the middle of the two.
Right.
So I mean, but when you're there, you hate it because there are rules. You know what I mean? You can
Right.
get, we used to call it restrictions, and you get certain class 1, class 2, up to like class 5, depending on what you
Mm-hmm.
do. You get demerits. You get paddled. I got paddled like most of
Yo.
my youth, like real. So when you get in trouble, you get swatted. Like,
Okay.
I don't even know if I
Okay.
should be sharing this on the podcast, but we
No,
like,
no, it's all good. I got a story for you too. Go
no, that's, I mean, it's
ahead.
just real talk stuff. You know what I mean? So you like, you couldn't do that right now. You know what I mean? That would be like abuse. You know what I
No,
mean? You
they'll
could
shut the
not.
school
They'll
down.
shut the whole
They'll
school
shut the
down.
school down. It's
So
crazy how
we got tore up, man. We got tore up by teachers, principals, house
right.
parents, supervisors. You would get it. I mean, you misbehave. You, like, certain classes, you get X amount
Uh
of spots depending on what you did. If you was on the wrong side of the of the campus, you ain't supposed to be over there, or you
you
didn't do your
catching paddle off of
detail.
that?
It's a lot of stuff. It was a lot of, you get in trouble, you fight, you don't do your details. You know, I don't even know if it was so much on homework, not doing your homework, more or less of just misbehaving in class. If you
Behavior.
misbehave in class, you gotta go to principal. You might get some swats and sent back to class. Um,
Okay.
it was just the life that it was, and it was normal because we're like, oh, this is what happens when you
No,
get in
no,
trouble.
it's the crazy thing is because we live in this world now where
Right,
you get close to beating your kids,
right,
the people coming to get them, right?
exactly,
And
exactly.
I mean, I remember I went to a private school. My parents sent me to a private school in downtown Philly,
Mhm.
the Islamic Community Center, and I went there for like maybe 2 3 years, something like that. But this was like when it was Bruce Lee like heavy, right? Bruce Lee heavy. I mean, I used to tell I want the Chinese shoes.
Right,
I used
right.
to eat rice every day. You know what I'm saying?
With
I
the
used to watch
sticks.
everything. I used to have the nunchucks,
Right,
everything, right?
right, right.
Matter of fact, I'm nice with nunchucks. People don't know that, but I'm
Oh
nice
yeah.
with nunchucks. I self taught myself with some nunchucks with
Okay.
the ones with the foam on them. I'm
Right,
nice.
right,
I'm
right.
telling you. So I remember me and my best friend Salim. Rest in peace to my man Salim because he's no longer with us. But I remember we must have had just watched like Enter the Dragon or something like that, right? So he brought the little star, the little star.
Oh,
He
right,
brought a real star. It's made, for those who don't know, it's a weapon. It's a metal
right, right.
weapon. It's like a
With pointy
blade, but
things at the
yeah,
end.
and it's a
Yeah.
circle thing that you could throw, right? So he brought the metal star to school, and I brought my nunchucks to school. And we was playing like we was Bruce Lee. I was Bruce Lee. I don't know who he was, but but we playing right at recess, and he throwing the star hard and like everything, so we got pulled up in the principal office, and you call them SWATs. We call it an ass whipping. You got the paddle, with
Yep. With the
the
thick
paddle,
joint.
the thick
Yeah,
paddle with the
nah, that's
holes
what it
in it.
was.
The
The
thick
paddle.
paddle with the holes in it.
Yep.
And I never forget. It was wintertime, and because shout out to my parents, my father, because beatings is a part of life back
Right.
then. So I was getting beatings, right? So I
Facts.
remember I had my thermals on, I had my long johns on
Mhm.
underneath, and Salim must have didn't have his long johns on. So we got our little beatings and stuff, and he's screaming, ah, I was so proud of myself because I was just taking it like it
Right,
was because
right,
I had my
right,
long johns on.
right. That's hilarious. So
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
funny about that is because Scotland, you knew you was going to get your, you know what I mean? You knew that,
yeah.
so you were thoughtful of that. Like, let me make sure I put an extra pad because I always got padded.
Okay.
So it's like I was always conscious. The thermal was one of the tricks. Let me make sure I got my thermal because I know I'm gonna
Right,
do something stupid and I'm gonna get
right,
paddled. So that
right.
definitely, and you
Oh
kind of
wow.
know, especially if you're at the cottage. You know you're going to get your swatch. You're just waiting for somebody to give it to you. So you're like, oh, let me
Right,
put
right.
some layers on because I know Mr.
You know it's
Stall
coming.
coming to give me. Because usually with the way it worked, it like they would call like the head house parent. Like if you messed up, it's like I'm gonna call Mr. Stall to come give you a spot. It's like, all right, well, I know Mr. Stall is coming, so let me
Right.
go
So
put
let me
on some
layer up real
let
quick.
me layer up real quick. So if you was getting the chance to do it, sometimes you had the chance to do it, sometimes you didn't. Most times you didn't,
Right,
but
right.
I feel you with the whole long john. That's
For sure, for sure.
that is definitely the cheat code on the SWATs.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
Um.
man. I mean, Scotland was just an experience. I would just say it was experience. I went there from fifth grade too, so like that's a young age to kind of like be away from your family,
Yeah.
and you're just in this environment where you're just getting you got brothers and sisters and you fight, you argue, you love. It's just what it was.
Yeah.
And like I said, you hate it because of just the rules and the restriction of it.
Yeah.
But when I was done, when I go to college, college was nothing. You know what I mean? Because I'm used to being away. I'm used to just living in dorms or living in spaces with other people, and it wasn't like a culture shock, which it could be for some people that just haven't
Yeah.
had that experience. So going to college was just it was sweet, and then you kind of like got all these Scotland brothers and sisters that you kind of reach out to and you don't
Okay.
realize the value of them like these are my people, so whenever I
Yeah.
need something, like to this day, like some of my best friends are people that I went to school with that I literally call my brothers and sisters, and when I
That's what's up.
introduce them, that's how I introduce them. And every once in a while people like literally think, oh, that's your brother and sister, and it's like something what happened. I was like, what? I thought that was your brother. It's like, he is my brother, but he's not my brother. You know what I mean? Like every
Yeah.
once
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
while it would come up. But
Yeah.
we act as if we are truly brothers and sisters. And I would move, help somebody move, or they come to your parties and proms, and
Yeah.
like they definitely are there for you. And that's the beauty side of it, that you don't realize that when you're there. You're
When
just a
you're in
kid.
it.
You're just going
Yeah.
through the experience, but then you leave, and that's kind of circling back to the conversation I had with one of my buddies from Scotland recently. I was driving down Merlin, and I mean, this is my guy. I mean, he's like younger than me, but I just picked up the phone like, "Yo, I'm headed down the way. What you doing?" Nothing. Yo,
Yeah.
let's meet up for lunch. And it was just like nothing. You know what I mean?
For
We met up
sure.
for lunch, went out to eat, and was
For
just
sure.
busting it up. Like we ain't never stopped being at Scotland. It was just
Right.
love. So, and you can
Yeah.
do that with somebody that you don't see from school. For I ain't seen this dude for years. Like you don't have to see
Yeah.
somebody for years, and he just pick up just like that.
No, no, for sure, for sure.
It's
Listen,
beautiful.
man, we're blessed. I always say, we'll talk about a little bit about IP, but I'm blessed to have like good friends.
Right.
You being one of those good friends that we
Right.
don't see each other, we don't talk to each other, but we got like a group of, I'm gonna say it's like 15 of us for
Right.
real. It's
Right.
about 15 of us, almost like the Wu Tang. Like
Right.
we may not see each other,
Right.
but when we see each other,
It's
it's like
love. Right.
it's love, and
Right.
it's like we
Right.
never were
Never missed the
apart.
beat, and it goes right back
Yeah,
to how it always was, and that's
yeah,
beautiful. That I agree. I agree. I
yeah.
come to learn that we have a very unique relationship that a lot of people don't have.
No, we
Actually,
do. No,
yeah.
no, no, we do. Our group really does, and I didn't. I think take it for granted because
Yep.
just in my interactions, you
Yep.
realize that a lot of people don't really have
They
not even
don't.
just friends. They don't have
Right.
good friends.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? A lot of
Right.
people just really have like associates.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
got like 14, 15 people that I consider brothers and sisters. It's like we
Exactly.
really tight like that. And my wife, like, well, you haven't talked to them. How are your friends? Like, it's just, it is what
It
it is.
is right. It
That's
is
just
what it
how it
is.
is. We
Right.
connected
Right.
forever. You know what I mean?
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, yeah. So Scotland was from 5th through 12th grade.
Yep. Fifth through 12th grade.
Okay, and you ran track in Scotland.
Yep. So I ran track. It's funny. I started running track as a, like so. they have track all through the years. But I really didn't start running track until became a senior. I didn't try
Okay.
to do any. I played basketball probably in ninth or 10th grade. But we had a pretty decent basketball team, and quite frankly, I just wasn't good enough to be on the squad. I mean, we were pretty decent.
Right.
But it came a time where I'm like, I want to just try all kinds of sports, right? So it was
Yeah.
like I tried football. Football was not for me, right? So I went out for the football team. I was like, yeah, I'm not the football dude.
Right, right.
Basketball and then track was like another thing that I was like, I should just try running track. I could jump, I could run, you know what I mean? And I started out like with the high jump, and I started out with long jump and triple jump. And long jump
Okay.
and triple jump was like something I wound up being really good at, and
Okay.
wound up performing very well at my senior year, and went to states and placed, and I did good. I didn't come in first place, but I did well. I got points so we can win the championship.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I was decent. I was pretty decent track person. So much that I wound up being able to go to college for it. So it was wasn't too bad. So
Yeah.
I was a late bloomer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably one of those things when your parents ain't around or somebody to encourage you to do something. If
Yeah.
I'd known better, I probably should have been doing track at ninth grade, and I probably would have been
Yeah.
like some type of whatever. I would have been better than what I was just for doing it
Yeah.
for a year. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, when you don't have those people in your life, but it's dope that you even had the foresight to just like let me just try some different sports because basketball was my thing. I played in high school, but I didn't really want to try. I tried baseball. I went
Mm.
out for the baseball team in high school. I went out there for like 20 minutes.
It was
I
like
went
nah.
out no because this was like maybe like sophomore, junior year or something like that.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I'm a pitcher. I threw the ball like 3, 4 times and my arm was hurting. I was like, no,
Oh, like
that's
nah, this
like
ain't gonna
no, my
last.
that's yeah, no, that's messing up my jump shot. Let me go ahead and put that down. Let me go ahead and put that down.
He said I can't mess up the jump shot.
No, no, I wasn't good enough to make any kind of waves with the jump shot. I couldn't screw that up. So okay, so fast forward a little bit. So you ended up doing well at Scotland
Yeah.
in track. You ended up going to IUP to run track.
Yep. So I went to IUP. So this goes back to my life. I was like thinking about my daughter. I probably, in hindsight, if I was my parent, I probably wouldn't have sent me to college because I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I just like barely got through high school. Like I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like I finished in like the top of my class. I was still that same busy kid.
Yeah.
I did enough to get through. Quite
Yeah.
frankly, and I got accepted to IUP. I didn't get accepted. I think I got accepted maybe Shippensburg. I didn't get accepted to a bunch of schools. And
Mm-hmm.
Shippensburg is kind of the what they call it, the feeder school for a Scotland person because it's literally
Oh, okay.
up around the corner. So a lot of people did go to Shippensburg because it was kind of friendly with Scotland.
Gotcha.
And I just wanted to get away from Scotland. I was like, I don't want to have nothing to do with nothing that got to do with Scotland.
For
Because I
sure.
was in that mindset of like, I hate this place, until you
Right.
appreciate it
Right.
until you leave. So
Right.
IUP was like, cool, I'm far away, far enough from Philly, and I'm far enough from Scotland. I was like, I don't know nobody. I can go up there and it'd be good. So what happened was they had a track team, of course, and I went and go
Mm-hmm.
talk to the coach. I was like, hey, I ran track, blah, blah, and I did a tryout and I made the team. That's big. So I didn't get like
Gotcha.
well, I did get a scholarship, but I didn't get recruited to go to
Right. It ended
IUP.
up kind of
A
being a
walk
walk on.
Yeah, like a walk
Yeah.
on. So
Yeah.
I
Okay.
basically became a walk on at IUP, and
So
I
what was
ran
it like?
track there for a couple years. Yeah,
So what was it like just being a collegiate athlete? Because a lot of people don't get the
that's
opportunity to
different,
experience that.
right? It's different. I mean, Scotland. It's funny because we wasn't big on weight training. Like weight training was like football, more or less. I think they did a little bit more weight training, but for um other athletes it was more running hills or just running around a track as many times just to kind of build up your stamina. I
Mm-hmm.
think when I went to college, then I'm doing calisthenics type things, you know what I mean? I'm doing
Yeah.
different things to build certain muscles, and I'm like in the weight room, and like they got the rubber bands, like there's more
Right. Right.
to it to kind of build certain muscles. So of course I'm jumping further because I'm training differently too. So I think in
Right.
high
Right.
school it was like just natural ability of just, oh, I know how to jump and run and jump. I have enough
Yeah.
speed and then I go up in the air, I'm going to go far. You know what I mean? But when I
Right.
got to college, it was like if I have my steps together, if I bounce a certain way, and with the whole triple jump, there's a whole rhythm to it. If you stay
Mm-hmm.
low and go, so it was a different training than Scotland. Scotland was just, if you're good, you just go at it and do
Just
it.
get out there and just do
Your
it.
IUP, you actually got a track coach, like you're
For
not a track
sure.
coach, a jump coach is what I meant to
Oh,
say.
okay.
You got a
Okay.
coach specifically for jumping, um, and you just had people that were, I wouldn't say were better than you, but were more seasoned than you, right? And
Mm.
they're kind of showing you, hey, if you do this, you can go further. 'Cause I remember this one guy named Rich. Um, I was better than him, but he had more technique than me, right? So I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
working with me and showing me how to do this and showing me how to do that, and I wound up becoming a better jumper and a better athlete. So I mean, it was cool. It was an experience of just like that I didn't even expect. It was like, oh, I ran track. I did good in my last year in high school. Let me try it in college, and it was kind of
Yeah.
cool to kind of compete against Kent State and like all these other schools, and you realize there's some athletes out there, though. There's definitely some athletes out there. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is for real. Like in high school,
Yeah.
you're like, you're first,
There's
second, third,
levels
and you're
to it.
looking good. Now I'm like, oh, like I need to get my game together. So
Yeah.
it definitely changed your mindset and make me more competitive, because I don't think I was as competitive. I was just doing. But then it was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, I need to step my game up. These dudes out here for real, like jumping and
Yeah.
all this other stuff. So that was a different mindset of, and I think that's when I became more competitive and just wanted to compete and do better, and work harder. Because I, like in high school, it was just natural. It was
Yeah.
I did. So it was a good thing to change my mindset. And I think it also helped me with focusing, right? Because me being all over the place, it was like, now I have to
Mm.
focus more on how to become this better athlete, which
Yeah.
is what I didn't do when I was younger. So it was experience, another experience for
That's
sure.
dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
All right. So let me switch gears real quick. So you studied accounting and finance.
Yep.
So I'm just curious because we haven't talked anything really about why that lane, why accounting, why finance.
Math, if anything I was good at, I was good at math.
Okay.
So math was just, so in school we called it Future Business Leaders of America. It was called FBLA.
In
So that
Scotland.
was in Scotland. It was a club
Okay.
called FBLA,
Okay.
and in that club, I mean, I'm aging myself, but we had typing. You know what I mean? You learn how to type. You
Right.
learn how to, like, you learn debits and credits, and you learn how the ins and out of running a business. We used to take little field trips, and we had a store on camp. You know what I mean? Like little things like that. You learn a little bit about revenue and expenses. So it's what I knew. So it's like, oh,
Okay.
okay. I was part of this club. I know business. So going to school, it was like, I mean, I was going to study accounting, study business
Yeah.
management, study. That was the space that I got into. Is this was a more of a natural fit, quite honestly. And it came to me a little bit easier. So account 101 and one of, like, some of those
No,
classes
that makes sense.
wasn't as challenging because it was the space that I was in. So yeah, that's chose it because that's what I was doing, quite frankly. It wasn't
No,
even
that
like a
makes sense.
career choice. It was
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
if I'm gonna go to college, what am I going to study? It was like, well, this is what I know. If that
Right.
makes
Right.
sense. It
And
wasn't
right.
more of a really thoughtful, let me do this because I want to be this
It
for
wasn't intentional, but it was
right.
something that you was familiar with. But then I guess
Exactly.
what, looking back on it, sounds like maybe
It
you didn't
fit,
know it
right?
then.
Right.
Yeah, that it fit, but you also were
Right.
good at math.
Right. I didn't go in like,
Right.
oh, you know what? I want to be a tax professional next one year. Like that's not
Yeah,
how
yeah,
I
yeah.
went into it. I wanted it because it was what I knew, and
No, it's
ironically,
interesting. No, it's
what you know is
interesting.
good.
No, no,
What you
exactly. It's
right.
interesting because it's like what you know, and I don't know how what the structure was at Scotland, but what you know was really in alignment with your natural abilities,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and math, which is crazy. And we're going to talk about what you're doing now with Hudson Tax Services. But I think that that's really interesting. But before I go to Hudson Tax Services, talk to me about Vita, VITA.
Right. So
Yeah, talk to me
Vita,
about Vita.
Vita,
What is
whatever you
that?
want to say it.
Vita
So
Vita.
Vita is volunteer income tax assistance. So And it's so funny. That's really what got me into taxes. So I was
Okay.
doing, so, I had a stint at IUP. I was there for a few years and then I kind of hopped around. I went to Temple, I went to CCP, I went to community college for the listeners, Community College of Philadelphia, and I wound up graduating from Pierce College. But in that jumping around, I wound up getting involved in NABA. NABA is the National Association of Black Accountants. And I believe I was at
Okay.
Temple at the time, and that was like my first introduction to Vita. And Vita is just a space where you learn how to do taxes for low income people, basically. So you kind of go through a training, you get certified by the IRS, not like an enrolled agent certification, but more certified for the scope of work that you're going to be doing, basically dealing with low income people that may have dependents and things like that. So that was my first introduction to Vita, and I loved it. I kind of, and I didn't love it in a economical way, like, oh, I can make money doing this. I loved
Yeah,
it
yeah.
in a service way. I loved it
Right,
that I
right.
was like, I have a skill that I'm actually helping
For
low income
sure.
people do their taxes. And there was like this feel good thing about it. Yeah,
For
it
sure.
really was. And I was like, this is interesting. And I mean, this is, years ago that I started doing it. And I'm literally still doing it to this day.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
yeah.
doing it at a different capacity, but I stay close to it because it does make me feel good. There's something about helping out folks, and because some people, like when we talk about low income, you may not realize like people are struggling. Like there's
Yeah.
people that are making $10,000 a year and less than 20,000, and they got three or four kids, and they're just trying
Yeah.
to make it. And they
Yeah.
you can help them get these large refunds, and they're eligible for earned income credits and all these different resources that the government allows people that are in certain situations. You want to maximize that and make sure
For
that they can
sure.
get all their money. So back when back in the day when I was doing, I just was like, oh my god, I just helped this person get a $6,000 refund. It just
Yeah.
there's this trickle feel good effect that I'm help
For
somebody get a
sure.
refund. They're gonna take that money, help their family out, and things like that. So that's Vita. That's really what got me into taxes, and that just started in college as just being part of NABA, and that was NABA was one of the initiatives NABA's did was like, hey, there's this program called Vita. You can go take a test, and then you can volunteer in your community and do people taxes.
Yeah.
That's what got me started in it. It's a great program. It's funded by the IRS or the federal government, and it's all over America. It's a free program for people to get their taxes done. They do federal and state taxes.
Okay.
Um, they don't do so much local taxes, but they can guide you in the right direction if you need to get some local taxes done.
And it's a free service.
It's totally free. It's 100%
Right.
free. And you're being, the people that are doing your taxes are trained on how to do your taxes. There is an income limit, so I don't want to just say it's free for everybody. There are income limitations, which changes every year, but it could be around 50 for a family, I would say, which is a lot of folks can fit into that bucket.
Yeah.
So, but I think for single person it might be a little bit less. But yeah, but it's a free service. I think it's a great service. There is, I know in my space, sometimes it could be a wait. Could be if there was a negative. Sometimes there's a wait time that people got to deal with.
Okay.
But they have drop offs now. They have virtual now, so they're figuring out different ways to process the amount of people that come to get their taxes done. Uh, Differently, because sometimes you get a bottleneck when you get a lot of people that show up, but you don't have a lot of
Gotcha.
volunteers. So that
Is
happens.
it is there like a website or something that people can, if they're
Uh,
interested?
I
We can
can
figure it out
I
if
can
you
give
don't.
you I'll give you a website. I'll give you our local website. Oh God, I gotta think about it. It's Philly. I can look it up, but
Okay.
I can give you the local one. Vita, you can just look that up on irs.gov. Actually, that's what you
Gotcha.
do. Go to irs.gov and look for your local Vita site. But there
Okay.
is one that I work with. I think it's CWF Philly. I don't know if it's Philly CWF or CWF Philly. Let me take a look real
Nope.
quick.
About to say we look it up. Okay.
CWFphilly.org.
Gotcha.
CWFphilly.org.
Got it. Got it. No, that's dope. I mean, and first of all, just shout out to you for it because I mean, a lot of times that's not the first thing that people think of when it comes to work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like giving back.
Right,
And a lot of
right.
times we we have all of these resources, we have these skills, and we think about our immediate family, which is important, of course,
Right.
but you're not necessarily thinking about the bigger good. So, man, that's what's up, man. I thank you for your service.
No problem. And look, it's a
For
good space,
sure,
man. Yeah,
for
folks
sure.
need it.
Okay, so let me kind of switch to entrepreneurship, because I know that you've been doing, you were with Vita for, if I saw it correctly, about 20 22 years or something like
Yeah,
that.
even maybe longer than that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
or
yeah,
22, something like
yeah,
that.
yep, yep,
So,
yep.
but what made, now I know you talked about your dad having like the entrepreneurial bug a little bit, but
Right.
what made you feel like, because obviously you have Hudson Tax Services, but what made you feel like that you could become an entrepreneur? Because like, let's just keep it real. Like when we growing up, we're the same age, basically. When we growing up, I know for me, I didn't see a lot of entrepreneurs. I don't
I agree.
even know that I even knew the word,
Right, right,
growing up.
right,
So you
right.
didn't see a lot of business owners outside of, you go to what we call, hopefully this isn't like, what is it? Not politically correct, but you got the Chinese store,
Right,
the
right,
Asian run business
right,
that
right. That
showed
was the entrepreneur. Right,
that
right,
was the
right,
entrepreneur. Was it like the
right,
Chinese store
right,
or the
right,
dude with the
right,
dry cleaner? But it
right,
was never anyone that really looked like us.
right,
So
right.
like, what made you believe that you could be an entrepreneur?
So that's funny. It was Vita. It was
Okay.
really an organic thing that happened. It wasn't a I want to run my own business one day. It was more or less of So I've been working 9 to 5 forever. Like I've worked for a nonprofit reinvestment fund for 20 plus years, and I recently stopped working there. And I'll get to that story later, but um I love doing taxes. Like I really love the Vita space was good to me. And at a certain point, I would say about 15 years ago, I would say 13, 14, 15 years ago, 2008 is the actual year. I um I said, you know what? I could do this for myself, but we wasn't touching everybody, right? So Vita has its scope, right? Vita was like
Okay.
low income people. I'm going to do low income people taxes, blah 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 blah. But what about people that aren't low income, right? So what about
Right.
people that are making, let's say, I'm just throwing out $75,000 to $85,000 and up, right?
Right.
That gap between 85 and let's say 300,000. Like there's people that were in a space that I felt was missing out on a quality service that low income people were getting, right? So I think Vita
Gotcha.
provides this quality service. They provide training, they have certified people getting their taxes done. And then you got people that are actually making X amount of dollars that are getting ripped off, right? And people are not doing their taxes right, or they're doing it to create refunds, right? And then years later they get in trouble because somebody made up something on their tax return. So I kind of got in this thought was like, I can I can be Vita, but on a higher scale, right? So how about I
Yeah.
start helping people that actually makes more money and that needs some tax planning, and I started like studying more about taxes, and that's how this whole enroll agent thing came about. I was like, how can I become a better tax professional, right? And be a licensed tax professional and not be
Right.
what we call in the industry a rogue tax professional that kind of shows up at tax times and figures it out, right? And
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
don't really understand the nuances around the tax laws are changing and what you can do and how to tax plan. Some people just show up at tax time because it is a money grab. It's definitely a space that you can make good money in. You go out and buy a software and you depend on a software to kind of
Right.
do a lot of the magic. But when you become licensed and more of a professional, the software is just a tool to do the taxes versus the thing that does it, like does everything.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
that was really what got me in it. So in 2008, I kind of said, hey, I want to help other people that can't go to Vita. So then I started to cherry pick people that I knew didn't fit into the Vita space. And people were giving me opportunity. I mean, I started off charging dirt cheap too. So I was like,
Right.
hey,
Right.
I'm not charging you a lot of money. Like, but I have a skill set and I'm like, come on, come join Hudson Tax Services. And
Right. Right.
I was a hustler, and I hate to say it, but I was hustling. I was like literally driving around. I was a mobile tax preparer. That's kind of how I
Okay.
thought. I would literally go to people's house, set up. I had like a whole suitcase, bring out my
Okay.
printer, bring out my laptop, and I would literally sit in
Word.
front of somebody's house and do their taxes. And it was a nice touch, like you ain't got it. Like
Yeah.
my thing used to be, my saying was, you don't have to go to get your taxes. I'll come to you. Something like that. I had like some
Right. Right.
have. Why go get
Right.
your taxes done when I can come to you? Something like that. But
Right. Right.
that was my thing. And I was driving all over the city. And that's really what built my clientele of just building that personal relationship of going around and getting clientele.
Yeah.
And my brother, I would just give my brother a shout out. My brother was like my biggest fan.
Big shout out to
And he
Sean.
would shout out to Sean. He would tell any and everybody that I do taxes.
Yeah.
And we joke about it to this day. Like his web is just crazy. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got probably a good 400 or 500 clients now, but his
Right.
web is probably
Yeah.
a good amount of like, those clients because they referred this person, they referred this person. But it started with Sean just telling
Yeah.
like all his coworkers, and everybody loves my brother. So it's like,
No, for sure.
if Sean is gonna say he good,
For
he good. And
sure.
I helped
For
him
sure.
out, you know what I mean? And he'll tell the story of how I helped him. But yeah, so then I just started growing, man. And things are good right now. But that was how it started. That was really the
Yeah.
genesis of that. I don't do the drive around. I'm fully virtual now. Like I ain't going nowhere to do somebody taxes. And I'm not cheap no more, right? So I'm
Right.
cost.
Right.
I'm cost conscious, but I'm not low price. But
For
any
sure.
matter,
For sure.
I'm at a space where I went out. I became an enrolled agent, which is
Mm-hmm.
someone who basically you take a 3-part test to become an enrolled agent, and you get
Mm-hmm.
certified to do individual. You get certified to do business taxes, and you get certified to represent people all across America. And
Okay.
representation, like people that have tax issues, they may need liens and levies removed, or they need payment plans set up, or they're just having issues with the IRS and they need somebody to help clean up, get them compliant, and all things like that. So you
So
got to,
the enrolled agent, because it sounds like that's because I don't think a lot of people, I don't think I've ever even really heard of someone being an enrolled agent. So the
yep,
normal tax person that's doing they're typically not an enrolled
they're not
agent.
enrolled. No, they are not. So there's about 65,000 enrolled agents compared to a million CPAs, right? So it's a
Gotcha.
unique niche of people. So CPAs does accounting, bookkeeping, financial statements, and they also do taxes. Enrolled agents do taxes. That's what
Got
we
it.
do, right? That's what
Got it.
we took a test on. We got to take continuing education every year. We got to get X amount of credits to just maintain the license, and where the IRS gives it to us as a test that's through the IRS. You get certified, and you can represent anyone. Like, so I can like get, it's like a 28, 48. I get power of attorney to basically talk
Okay.
to the IRS on your behalf by you just signing off a form, and me being a enrolled agent. I can do that with anybody that's in America. But it's just I find it a prestigious title to have when you're doing taxes. I think there's a lot of people that do taxes, but they really don't know taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that because I can sometimes you talk to somebody that does taxes and are asking questions. You're like, you should probably know that. You know what I mean? And some
Right.
of
Right.
them
Right.
depend on the computer to tell them the answers.
Right.
It's like, oh, I
Right.
plugged all this stuff in. Why isn't this not happening? And I can say, well, it's not happening because it's a non-refundable credit, or it's not happening because this person at a certain age, or they're over the certain income limit. It's like, I
Right. Right.
know why it's not happening, while somebody is like, I'm trying to force something to happen because it happened to somebody else. But
Right.
everybody's
Right.
tax situation is different, and a lot of rogue tax preparers don't understand it. They just
And
want to
so, I
say,
mean, basically,
it's a refund.
an enrolled agent is a specialist.
They are.
You're a specialist.
They call us the America's tax expert. If you went
There
to
you go.
it's called NAEA, National Association of Enrolled Agent. That's like the big organization that you would join when you become an enrolled agent. And what they do, they got classes they teach you, but they also are advocates for enrolled agent, and we're also advocates for taxpayers. Like just recently, I was in DC at Capitol Hill talking to Congress people on things that we think should be better for the tax system, how to like improve some of the systems, ways that they can use some of the dollars that they just received on some of the different tax acts that passed. They received some money. Here's some like as an organization, because we are the experts. Here's some
Yeah.
ways that you can use the money so we can help the taxpayers better.
No, that's what's up. And I want to ask you about that because I
Yeah,
know that you did get a chance to talk to Congress. I do want to ask you about that a little bit.
yeah.
No, for sure. But the one before I go there, tax season.
Mm-hmm.
What does tax season look like? Because I mean, tax season is what, like
So
4 months or something like that?
tax season traditionally is end of January through
Uh
April
huh.
15th. That's the
Okay.
traditional. I think my tax season, because I do VITA, is like November. Because I where I'm at in VITA now, I kind of design the curriculum to teach
Mm,
people how to do taxes, and
yeah.
that design happens November-ish. And I got a team of trainers that I work with. So my tax season goes from like November through April, basically. I mean, I still got
Okay.
clients that I'm dealing with now with extensions, but that's my core season. But tax season itself is
Yeah.
end of January, April 15th. That's the 3 months.
So what does that look like? Is that
Oh, it's
crazy
crazy.
or what?
It's
Yeah.
crazy. And mind you, I had a 9 to 5 for 20 plus years.
Right.
And part of that whole, having a 9 to 5 and having tax season, it used to be crazy. And especially as my business grew, the
Mm,
9 to 5 started to get in my way. You know what I'm saying? So
mm-hmm.
it was kind of like I had to make a decision, which I did a few years back, was like, I don't want to work here no more. And I think COVID was part of all that. COVID sent everybody home, and you're
Right.
home. And when you're home, I'm doing taxes, I'm working my
Right.
job, and all this other stuff. And like that's really where my business really, really started doing well, and my clientele was growing. And as COVID kind of started to die down, it was like, hey, all right, y'all come back to work. And I'm saying like, I
Man,
don't
I
know
ain't.
if I want to go back to work. Like, I don't know if I want to go back to work. My
Yeah.
business was doing better than my 9 to 5, and I was like, I really don't have to go back. I could have went back for just the greed to just have cash flow, but it was like, I think I want like time. Time
Mm,
that's a commodity that people don't really look at it as much. And I was like, I want time as a commodity. My kids were
yeah.
older, bills were paid down. It was like, you know what? I'm a not. I'm a, I, until I don't like to use the word quit, but I resigned. I went to my boss
Okay.
like, I'm not gonna. I'm ready to leave, and like I've been there for all these years, so I wanted to respectfully leave. Like I
For
didn't want like,
sure.
yeah, I'm leaving next week. It was like, look, I'm
Right.
kind of done. Like I don't think I want to work here anymore. But I'll give
Right.
you. I think I said it in like April, and I was like, I'll give y'all to June. So as I've been there so long, I have legacy and historical information in my head. I was like, I'll give you. We'll give it to June to kind of get it out of me and help
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
somebody else into the position.
For
Um,
sure.
and that's basically what I did. I kind of like stopped and traveled around the world. Like it just
Yeah.
I did. It was actually it was something that I've always wanted to do, but it was at a point where COVID definitely drove that. It was like
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to a 9 to 5. I don't want to get up and get dressed and go to work. I didn't want to do that. I kind of
Yeah.
was. I don't have to either. That was kind of where it was. I really didn't have to financially,
For
and
sure. For
I
sure.
chose no, no 9 to 5 for me.
No, no, and you touched on something that for me I look at now as the most valuable thing in the world is time,
Yeah,
because you can't get it back. So
you can't.
which leads me to your off season. I mean, I know that your on tax season is crazy.
Right,
So
right, right.
what's your off season looking like?
Oh, I'm just still learning it. Real talk. I'm
Okay.
really. That's been, and it sounds weird. That's been the hardest part. Like, what do
Hmm.
I do when I'm not during tax season? So right now, I've been an entrepreneur like full time since 2022. So it's only been a couple years.
Okay.
So
Okay.
2022, my off season, I traveled the world. We
All
traveled
right.
for 8 months. My wife and I, we traveled and hit like 25 countries. She quit her job. We just was living our best life. So we just
Give me some
traveled.
spots. Give me some spots that y'all been going to.
Oh wow. It's funny because I used to know it by heart, but we hit Portugal, we hit Germany, Amsterdam, Paris, Belgium, um,
Wow.
South Africa,
Okay.
Egypt,
Right.
Jordan. Sri Lanka, India, Philippines, Thailand,
Wow.
Cambodia, uh, Bali. We hit oh god, uh the down under Australia. What was it? Australia. We went to, so we did New Year's in Toronto. We did the not
Okay.
Toronto, New Year's in god, under the bridge in Australia. I don't even know why it's blank right now. But we did New
Yeah.
Year's in Australia, which was freaking
Okay.
Sydney. We did New Year's in
Okay.
Sydney,
Sydney, Australia. I got you.
which is the first place that it kind of starts off over there. So
Mm.
that was awesome. We did it on the harbor. But we hit other places like little like Fiji. Like we wound up doing a cruise while we were out there. We hit Fiji and all these Samoa and little islands like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Australia was probably one of my favorites. Outside of the southeast, I love the Thailand. I love
Yeah.
Bangkok was cool. It gives you that New York feel.
Okay.
Cambodia was peaceful as ever. Like I think that's probably the most peaceful place I've ever been. And like,
Is that right?
when you're in Philly, you just got that guard up because you're
For
conscious
sure.
about what's going on.
For sure.
I think traveling, that guard was gone. It's definitely in Cambodia. You just feel at peace and you're not like worrying about nobody doing nothing to you. You
Yeah.
just feel real safe and just, I can just like look at the sights and all that stuff. So it was kind of just a really surreal type feeling, just traveling all over the world. Like it's more to this world than America. And I think that
Yeah.
was probably the biggest learning piece of all of this. Like there's a lot going on out there. People live different ways. Food is made differently. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have as much stomach issues when I was traveling like I do at home.
Okay.
I think the food is just made. I think the dairy is different over there. I think I got some dairy issues, but I
Hmm.
think dairy is different in other countries. But yeah, any manner, that was what I did for 2022. 2023 was the challenging one because I didn't travel
Okay.
after tax season. And I'm like, what am I going to do with my time? And I
Yeah.
wound up joining a gym. That's been my space to go to like kill time. Like I joined a
Mm-hmm.
gym for Lifetime, and I pub in Lifetime, but Lifetime is awesome. like it's like a gym where they got a spa, they got a steam room and a jacuzzi and a
Yeah.
sauna room and classes. And I can go to the gym and be there for like 3 to 4 hours. And that's what I
Right.
would do. I actually was at the gym today for like 2 to 3 hours. I went like 8 o'clock and I had to come home and do this. Like it was, I definitely like the gym.
There you go.
I do yoga. I've been doing yoga
Okay.
classes and
Okay.
it's crazy. That's been my way of killing time. Outside of that, with taxes, I got to take classes. So I go to conventions and learn like
Mm-hmm.
the newest tax laws. And I still travel. Like I will try to do a cruise a year or,
Yeah.
you know, do
Okay.
different trips. Yeah. So I'm going to Alaska and things like that. So
No,
I'm a travel. Still like to travel.
it's a beautiful thing, and I mean, this is we're talking. This podcast is called Design Your Life for a reason, and you've clearly like designed and crafted life to
Mm.
be what you wanted it to be, and made some difficult decisions because
Yeah.
sometimes you create these relationships, say at work,
Yeah.
and it may be difficult to separate yourself or kind of put yourself out there to do something entirely different. So no, I definitely applaud you for that for sure. So in the idea of helping people learn how, what it takes. So I know you said full time for 2 years, but Hudson Tax Services is really about 16 years old.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
So what do you think, if you could just give a quick couple tips or whatever in terms of how and what it really takes to become just a successful business owner
Right. That's a
or
good
just to
question.
have a successful business?
I'll tell you my story. I don't know if everybody's story is the same, but I think I had I had leverage, right? So I had a
Okay.
9 to 5. And I think if you were to get into a business, if you want to start a business, leverage it. You know what I mean? If you can, right? So I worked for a nonprofit organization and I was still in the finance space. So it wasn't not that to say it was a huge jump to do taxes, but it wasn't that far off, right? I was already in the financial space. So my advice would be, if you're looking to get into business, it's okay to work for somebody. It's okay to work and do that on the side until that
Yeah.
side thing grows, right? And try to balance that. I think that might have been one of the things that I was privy to, where my job, I had a great relationship with my employers, my boss, my coworkers. Everybody knew I did taxes. It wasn't even a secret at my job. So I
Right.
would work literally 9 to 5, and after 5, or after whatever my work was done, I would become Hudson Tax Services, and I would literally stay at my job, and I would start,
Okay.
because I could do a lot of things on the computer. And I would,
Right.
back when I was grabbing papers, all the papers that I had, I would sit there and do their taxes, and I would be there all night. I would work until like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, go home and do it all over. And that was like how taxing, it was crazy, me working like good 18-hour days, but I was
Yeah.
leveraging. I wasn't making enough money on my business to have it be the pay the bills, I would say, right?
Right. Right.
I was making money, but I didn't have enough to be self-sustainable. But I was leveraging not only money from the 9 to 5, I was also leveraging information, right? I was still learning how to just manage finances and understanding businesses. And, I'm dealing with other entrepreneurs. Part of my job, I was lending money out. So I had the privy of looking at financial statements and looking how
Right.
people moved. And I was able to use some of those skills and things that I was seeing other people do. It's like, oh, this is a way to kind of run your business and balance your money a little bit different and save. Like savings I'm really big on savings and putting money away. And people say I'm cheap. I wouldn't say I'm cheap. I'm very cost conscious, right? So it's kind of
There
like,
you go.
I ain't got to spend a bunch of money.
Right.
Because you just don't have to. Like, I'm the
Right.
one person, I can wear the same clothes. Like, I don't have to be fancy and have name
Right.
brands and all that stuff. I'm just not into that because I don't care, right? So
Right. Right.
I think
Right.
sometimes there's this keeping up with the Jones mentality
For
sometimes.
sure.
And that kind of hinders your growth in a business, right? Because now, if you're trying to grow a business, but you're also living a certain lifestyle, you're kind of going neck and neck with your business, when you're not
Yeah.
really allowing your business to mature and do what it needs to do. And it
Right.
may become something nice, but now you're working to live, which I
Right.
didn't, I didn't have that as a crutch. I wasn't never working my business to live. My business was a side business that I was just it was maturing, and I was like, putting things
Building.
into it to make it better. I was, building it up to become what it is now, but I had the
Yeah.
luxury of the leverage of a job to allow me to do that.
Right.
So I
Right.
would say, don't I'm not even saying go get a job to do a side job, but what I would say is, don't run away from it. Don't say, oh, I don't want to work a 9 to 5 because I'm so hell bent on, I want to be an entrepreneur and I'm just going to do this. If you got to work, work. Work your nine to
Right.
five and hustle on the side until that thing becomes what you want it to be, and then take that leap of faith and go. Because I would have did it. I mean, I did it in 2022, but I would have did it years ago. Me and my wife was going back and forth with it, and so that's probably why I didn't do it. But
Yeah.
with COVID was like, I ain't going back to work. So I actually had a good spot to do it. But I would encourage anybody to not shy away from being able to work a 9 to 5. Let that leverage your business as you grow your business. It's okay to do that.
It sound like too, like that you were in a business, your job, your 9 to 5 was also
Right.
in alignment
Yep.
with
Yep.
what you wanted to do from an entrepreneurial standpoint. That's one thing that sounds like is big for me, because you were
Yep.
working and learning at the
At the
same
same time.
time. And you talk about
Exactly.
the leverage piece, but the other thing I think is important is that stood out to me is you are also leveraging relationships, because you had a
Yes.
good relationship with the people
Yes.
that you work with. They allowed you to
Yes.
basically have that space, which to me
Yep.
sounds priceless.
It
It
is.
sounds,
It,
it's
it, it is
priceless.
priceless.
So for
And
you to
that's why
be
I
able
worked
to
here
just flip that
forever.
switch and just flip from, okay, I did my work nine to
Yep.
five. Now they allow me to use the computer, all
Yep.
the resources to that.
All the
Like,
resources. Yep.
yeah,
And
Yeah,
I
that's
think that's why I say when I tell the story, I think it's unique, right? I don't think
yeah,
that's the norm when you work in a 9 to 5, because people are real tight on like you can't use this computer for anything but this, you know what I
right,
mean? Like you
right.
can't do that. But to your point, I formed really, really good. I was doing my employees tax. I was doing my boss taxes. Like I was
Right.
doing my employees, my coworkers, I should say not employees, but my coworkers' taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I had really good relationships, and everybody. It's the weird part is that even during tax seasons, people were conscious that it was tax season for me, and like
Oh, okay.
in meetings, they're like, "Well, you know, Des, it's tax season." He go, you know, he's working. I'm sitting there like, "This is beautiful," like you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
that's not. But I also did my job too, so
No, for sure, for
I
sure.
never not did my job, and I think people realize that I've always did my work. I always put my job before Hudson Tax Services when I was at it, because I
Right.
really appreciate them giving me the freedom to continue to run the business after hours or whatever. It was like my office after hours.
No,
But yeah,
100%.
I think you make a really good point about relationships. I take that for granted, but I definitely built really good relationships to allow me the freedom to
To
leverage,
even be able to do
yeah,
it.
to do
Yeah,
that.
and to do it in that way, because I would
Yeah,
imagine that you would have still done it and found a way to do it, but
yeah.
it
It would have
probably
been,
would have
yeah.
been more challenging, I'm
It
sure.
totally would have been challenging. I would have been running home. I probably wouldn't have a client. Like it was seamless to just stay in one
Yeah.
space versus
No,
leaving
100%.
here, going. So I didn't have to pay for office space. You know what I'm saying?
For
Like
sure, for sure.
it was good. I didn't. I mean,
I
I don't
mean,
want to
that's
say it
office
too
space,
loud, but supply.
laptops, all. Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? My supply game was off the hook, man. So but nah, it's so funny. So I laugh about that. But so you know when you work in a job and they reimburse you for things like
Right.
say you go somewhere and like you do like a site visit and you eat and you drive a car, they reimburse
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
I used to didn't get the reimbursements and they said like, you don't want the reimbursements. I'm like, I think I got enough from you guys. You know,
I'm
it was
good.
I'm
I'm good.
good.
I'm good. I don't want to overdo it.
I don't
I'm
want to
good.
overdo it. I done took enough paper and paper clips and folders from y'all. I don't
Yeah,
need y'all
yeah.
to reimburse me for certain things. So that was my way
No,
of like breaking even on me giving back.
no, no doubt. No doubt. Okay, all right. So definitely, we talked about challenges a little bit, but I want to dive into it a little bit because it's never all peaches and cream, right?
Right, right.
So just is there like I don't know a challenge, whether it was in business or just personal, a big challenge that you kind of experienced that you could share with us, and how did you get through it? You know, because we all have challenges at some point.
Mm,
So whether it's business, whether it's personal, because I think it's really important to just highlight, you know, the fact that it's not going to be all smooth. It's
right,
definitely not
right,
going to go your way all the time. So whether it's starting your business, whether it's challenges, whether Scotland or
right, right.
whatever it might have been,
I mean,
anything.
oh God. I mean, I had the IUP challenge. I don't know if that's something we talk about on this thing, but
I mean,
that
look,
was
if you want to share, it's up to you.
I
But
mean, that was a problem. Getting caught up in something that you ain't do.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, that was a quick
that was
snafu, but I don't.
right.
It was in and out. I don't know. A challenge. I would. Here's what I would say. I think you know some of the challenge. Well, yeah. Here's what I. So I got a couple challenges. I would say. I think relationships. I think going to Scotland, one of my challenges is probably like family. I don't think I'm as
Okay.
close with my mom and dad that I probably should be. So I don't know
Okay.
if that's a challenge or that's just a personal thing I got, but I think my relationship with my parents could be better, right? But I think that I was shipped off to school for all this time frame that my relationship with my parents isn't like most kids with their parents,
Okay.
right? That could I don't know if that's a challenge or not, but I know that's something that I think I struggle with.
Well, I
I
would say
think
so, especially if you
yeah,
said
I
it.
think that's something I would say I'm married. Marriage can be a struggle.
Right.
So I mean, married life can definitely be a struggle. I think with the whole business thing, I know I wanted to like be a full-time entrepreneur years ago, right? But you
Okay.
gotta it wasn't, I didn't get the green light in the household to do that, right? So that can
Okay.
be something that I feel, I don't want to say the word resentment, but it's like I wanted to do a business a long time ago. I think if I had if we're all on the same page, like, hey, go for your business and try it sooner. Like
Right.
sometimes
Right.
go with what you feel. You know what I mean? If you feel that you can do something, it's okay to take that leap of faith earlier than what somebody else might not feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so I had to like, I think I worked a lot longer than what I wanted to, but I
Okay.
didn't do it for Desmond. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes you got to figure out what do you want for yourself versus
There you
doing
go.
something for somebody else. You know what I
No.
mean? So
No. There you go.
I think that's an advice I would say, like, try to put yourself first. I think part of this whole like being an entrepreneur, I just like joined a fraternity recently.
Yeah.
And COVID was a time of reflection for me
Mm.
where you think about the things that you don't do for you. Like I think good men sometimes are selfless, right? And they don't really
Mm.
do what they want to do because they want to make sure that everybody else is happy and everybody
Yeah.
else
Yeah.
sees
Yeah.
good. And I lived that life for like a really long time.
Right.
And I came to a point where it's like, well, what do I want? You know what I mean? So
For
I
sure.
kind of like, well, I want to be a damn entrepreneur. I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be an alpha. I'm going to pledge. Like it's things that I wanted to do that I always kind of put to the side,
Yeah.
thinking about what somebody else would feel. So I would say, I'm 50 years old. Don't wait till you're 50. You know what I mean? Don't wait too long in your life to say, what joys do you have that you want to go after,
Mm-hmm.
and don't put them off. Like don't put off your own joys. That would be something I would say, because I did that for a very very long time, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was good. I mean, I had a daughter that was busy. Definitely had a daughter that was one of those, as they call them, helicopter dads, whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
I think once my Demi being like self sufficient was another like weight off my shoulder. It was like I could take risk and do
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
worrying. I always thought I needed to work hard and have money because who knows what's
Be
going to
there.
go happen with this kid. You know what I mean? Be there for her.
Right.
But I think once she became self sufficient, that was a big weight off of me of like, you know what, I can take on some opportunities now and fail, right? If I fail, fine, I'll just go
Mm-hmm.
get another job. But it was
Yeah.
like I can do this now, and go for some of the passions and joys that I've ever always wanted to do without any hesitation. Before there were more hesitation, and it's not just having a spouse, but having a family. There's fear, right? There's a fear factor of like, am I going to be
Yeah.
successful and all that stuff.
Right.
So, and I think I would have done well in hindsight, because when I did it, I like did very well. So I can imagine if
Yeah.
I did it 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Man.
So it's just, I think there's a fear that happens, and sometimes you may not have the most support behind it. So the fear
Mm-hmm.
even wins over even more unless you got somebody like, go ahead, you do it. You know what I mean? You can do
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
versus somebody saying maybe you shouldn't, and you're already
No,
scared. So
no,
you're
listen.
like, I'm
The,
not going
the
to do
the no, the crazy thing, there's so much there to unpack, but the crazy thing is I have this thing now where I truly believe that, your biggest dreams and your biggest fears are actually connected,
it.
right? And in many ways. And if you can dream big enough, there's gonna be fear there for
Right.
sure. But if you can face the fear, then you can get
Yep.
to your dream a lot faster. So that's one thing. But the idea of doing what you want and pursuing the things that energize you and that you're passionate about, this is really what this is all about. This
Right.
conversation is really all about, because a lot of people don't do that for a
Right.
variety of different reasons.
Right.
And you're still a young man for sure, absolutely 100%. But when I was talking to an older gentleman, and he really couldn't say that, essentially, like, man, if I had to do some things, make some changes, I would have made some changes, or I would have made some adjustments. He really couldn't. He
Right.
looks at it regret and not, but chase your dreams, man.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Chase your dreams. I mean, obviously you need to be responsible and things like that, but
Facts,
you know,
facts.
people are going to put their fears on your dreams, and we allow that
Absolutely.
to happen more
We
times than
do.
not.
I agree.
You know?
I allow that to happen. People put
Yeah.
their fears on your dreams. That's real. That's you should put that on like a t-shirt.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
There we
Like,
go.
don't let people put their fears on your dreams. I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
We
what
gonna
I.
make sure we put that in there somewhere.
Yeah.
No, but
Hat pigeons. I like that. I like that.
no, that but it's exactly what happens, and you know, many times it takes it. What most of the time it takes you just kind of pushing through the fear to
Mm-hmm.
get there. And you touched
Mm-hmm.
on failure, which I want to talk about real fast because I want to do one more thing before we start to wrap it up. Is is failure,
Right.
right? I asked
Right.
these kids one time, like, you know, is failure a bad thing? And they, oh yeah, bad failure is a bad thing. And so I just want to know if there's anything any failures you experienced and how it might have helped you kind of get along your way.
Any failures? Failures. I lived a pretty good life, man.
That's good.
Like, no, I'm not. I'm not trying to be funny, but I don't have. I mean, I don't have like a. I joke about this. Like me and my wife, I haven't had like a major failure thing in my life where
Okay.
I'm like down and out and look, I was on my last. You know what I'm saying? Like I've
Yeah,
never
yeah,
been on
yeah,
like
yeah.
my last something where I'm about to like be homeless
For
or
sure.
like I don't have a struggle story quite honestly that I can like
Okay.
share. I'm thinking, but not nothing. I think that whole fear thing, what you just said, that's probably was my biggest struggle of I failed to pull the trigger. I failed to trust myself, right? There was a
There
failure
you
of
go.
like trusting yourself. You wanted to do something, pull the trigger, and don't let nobody stomp on your dream or whatever. Don't let fear, like you
Yeah.
said, mess up your dream. But that I think that like those are I probably had those kind of failures throughout my life of like not
Right.
pursuing something
And that's
because
probably
of yeah,
more. That probably happens more times, you know, because
yeah,
when we think about failure, we think about like the major tragic thing,
right, right,
but
right,
you
right,
know what you just talked about really is what most people go through almost
all the
every
time.
day.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
all the time. Where you know there's a thing they want to do, but they kind of scared to do it,
yep,
and they don't really have any support to do it. So I'm not going to do it. I'm gonna just
exactly.
stay in this safe zone right now.
Yep, yep.
And then 30 years goes by and like, God damn, I wish I would have,
There
you know,
you
I
go.
should have, I would have, you
There
know what I
you go.
mean?
There
So
you go.
there is something to be said. And for me, I always wrap it up in terms of like failures are steps on the road to success.
Right,
So, you know, you got to go through those struggles and challenges, you know, whether it be challenges, you know, working all 18, 18 hours a day or whatever it may
right,
be to kind
right,
of get there.
right.
Um,
I
okay.
would
So,
say just something to kind of piggyback on what you said. I would like for your audience or whatever. It's okay to get outside of your box. I was someone that stuck in my box. I knew
yeah,
my box. I knew exactly how to be how to live in that box. Like I knew that my bare minimums. I knew that my bills are going to get paid if I did X, Y, Z. I knew what I needed to do to be safe, and I stayed
right.
within that safe box. Um, and every time I try to go out that box, if the littlest thing can push me back in it, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So I would say it's okay to get outside of your box. Because once I got out of the box, it was like, oh my God, there's like just so much more out here because I
Yes.
was so sheltered in this box. It's like, wow, I have opportunities. I can make more money. I can see the
Yes.
world. I traveled the world. Like I can do things that I've never done. But I
Yeah.
was still like, I'm in this box and this is what I know. This is what I'm used to.
Yeah.
Don't get so caught up on being comfortable being in a certain box, which I definitely lived in that for years. And it was been great since I've been out of it. So
Yo, Diz, that's so impactful for me because in the communities that we come from, like I've got this thing now that I'm diving into, and it's called inspired expectations,
mm,
right? And we don't live in a space where we sometimes I didn't visualize the future. I didn't think I wasn't like I'm just day to day. But we
Right.
don't our expectations for what we can do and what we can be is so small. And
Yeah. Right.
I
Right.
did this thing with these high school kids, and I told them, I said, look, put your your hand over your eye, right, and close the opposite eye, right. And when you do that, that's basically your lens into the world. But when you take away those hands and open up your
Mm,
eye, you can see so much more.
right. That's deep.
And
Right.
no, and it's so true, because in the box is super safe
Yep.
to stay
Yep.
in the
Yep.
box.
It
You know what
is.
I'm saying? I can still see. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I can
Right.
still see
Right.
where I want to go.
Right.
But
Right.
when I take it away, I'm like, damn, there's so much out
There's so
there,
much
and
more out there.
that we don't even know about. And a lot of
Right.
times it's because, our parents had their path and they
Right.
did their best, and
Right.
but their best, and we love our parents and all
Right.
that, but their best, they didn't get exposed
Right.
to
Right.
what else was out there. So,
Right.
man, that's super
Right.
impactful for sure,
And
for
that's
sure.
definitely different because we've been exposed to it. So our kids are gonna have a different, like
Oh
my
yeah,
daughter is so out the box that it's
yeah,
uncomfortable for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, and she does all this stuff where I'm trying to bring her into a box. She don't
right,
have a box. And
yeah.
it's
She
such a
resisting. Get out of there.
I'm trying to adjust to her. Like she's on a cruise line. Like who thought I'm
Yeah,
gonna go work on a cruise line? Like what? Who
right.
does that? And it's just
Yes.
like now she wants to go do all pair and she just has this vision to do things that I'm still getting my head around because I was so much in the box and it's like,
Yes.
you know what? This is beautiful. Live your
It's
best life,
dope.
dude.
It's dope.
Go
It's
for it.
dope. No, for
Yeah.
sure. Because now I always say your dream is your dream, and don't let
Yeah.
anybody else control what that thing could be.
Right.
So
Right.
no, that's what's up. We talking about Demi, right?
Demi, yeah, Demi.
Yeah, yeah,
So I mean, my other daughter, my wife's daughter, my stepdaughter is the same way. She moved to Maryland, and like she's like,
yeah,
I don't want to be in Philly no more. I've been in Philly all my life. Like I mean, you
yeah,
up and left. It's like there's this
yeah,
fear of moving and doing things because that was how I lived my life. But my kids are not like that. They just like I'm going. I don't want to be here. Like okay.
yeah.
I mean, they also got parents that are they has of a resource, right? So we definitely are more resourceful probably than what our parents were to
Right.
allow you to fail, right? And that's something that's powerful to be in a position to allow your children to take risk and do things.
Yeah.
Because if you fail, I got you to a certain extent.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm
Right. Right.
still want to make sure that you know how to live on your own, but there is this comfort of like,
You had that. You had a
I
cushion.
got I got a cushion, so
Yeah.
that's definitely a good thing to have for your children.
For sure, for sure. Okay, so speaking outside the box, I want to play a game with you after this, but speaking outside the box, because Congress, I'm not sure. I mean, I know somebody now who spoke to Congress. What was that? What
That
was
was
that
awesome. That was
experience
outside of
like,
the
man?
box. So it's so
Yes.
funny. It was something. So it's called fly-in for the National Association of Rural Agents. They do a fly-in every year where they go down to Capitol Hill and they basically advocate for different things or whatever our points are for the for that time. Now the fly-in has been happening for years. I ain't never go because Desmond was in the box. Desmond was like, we're
Right.
not. I didn't want. I'm going to work. You know what I mean. I got my little
Right.
business over here. It was certain thing I want to do. So now that I'm outside of this box, I was like, why not? I want to go down here. I want to talk to Congress. I want to like have some input and on how I think things change. So that was. I would tell anybody and everybody they should just go to the Capitol Hill one day. I thought
Yeah.
the whole experience was and it's because I don't know, maybe I think people that may be in high school, maybe they take trips to the Capitol Hill. I wasn't one of those kids, but any manner, you can just go in Capitol Hill and walk around and do whatever you want. Like it's like there's security at least to get in there, but you can walk around, literally knock on a door and be like, hey, how you doing? I'm Desmond. Like I can walk in Bob Casey's office and literally open the door and just say, hey, I'm Desmond from Pennsylvania. I just wanted to come down here and say hi to. And if he's in there, hey, how you doing, Desmond? It's like they're literally there, and they say that the Capitol Hill is the people's building, and that's why
Right.
I like that. You can literally walk around and talk to people. So what we did, we had appointments. So I mean, you ain't gonna just be able to go down there and have an appointment with somebody, but we
Right.
literally had appointments for the congressman or rep, whatever it is, Senate um team. So you may not always talk to the actual Bob Casey, but you'll talk to like the person underneath them, depending on whoever schedule it is. So you go
Yeah.
in, you have like a half an hour, 45-minute conversation, depending on whatever you're talking about.
Mm.
And we kind of went down there. We had our talking points, and we wanted to like talk about having minimum standards of people to try to get their taxes done. That's something that we think should be pushed out, because any and everybody can just wake up and do people taxes. And
Right.
we talk about the tax gap, which is basically the gap is where a lot of things happen where they're not collecting taxes,
Mm.
where people either are lying on their taxes or not doing their taxes. But part of that gap are rogue taxpayers that are doing people taxes incorrectly to
Mm.
create refunds. And
Mm.
the we as people, the IRS people, are actually, we're losing tax dollars because people are just making up stuff to create refunds. And not only are you
Wow.
using tax dollars, you're actually messing up somebody's situation, because the way the IRS is set up, it takes them a couple years to get caught up on fraudulent activities. So you might
Gotcha.
have got a refund in 2022, but come 2024, you got a nasty letter saying, I need all that money back, plus interest,
Mm.
plus penalties. So you got a refund of 5,000, but now you owe me 25, because you got to pay me
Wow.
the five back, and you actually owed this, and now I'm
Yeah.
hitting you with penalties and interest. And it's like now that person is jammed up, and now they're
For
coming to an
sure.
enroll agent to say, hey, can you help me out, whatever. But that was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
talked about that. We talked about there's like special systems in the system in at the IRS that me as an enrolled agent, CPA, a lawyer can kind of get into to kind of help a taxpayer situation. And if
Mm-hmm.
they it's been getting better, but they improve it a little bit more, we can help the IRS help resolve people tax issues by being able to go in and do things for them. So those are the type of things we talked about. Two
Okay.
of them were systems, like two different systems that you can kind of improve. And just worrying about just making sure people are paying their fair share of taxes and having good people do their taxes to make sure like when the people go after people say, oh, they go after the low income people. Just like, if you're going to go after people that do their taxes, go after everybody. Don't just
Yeah. Yeah.
zero in on a certain group of people.
Right.
Everybody pays taxes. Make sure that you're evenly yoke go after people for
Yeah.
tax issues. Don't just pry on a certain community or whatever. Now, I'm not even
For
making
sure.
it a black or white thing, but sometimes it's a low income thing, or it could be a
Mm-hmm.
middle class thing. But everybody paying taxes from low income to the rich. Make sure that you're
Right.
going after them evenly. So we kind of like, that was another thing that we were talking about.
So did
Collect
y'all meet in like a boardroom or just
We met in their offices. So like I was like
okay?
there, everybody got like offices. You go through Capitol Hill, like
Got it.
there's like, it's like a whole bunch of doors walking down the hallway. So you
Yeah.
go in your appointment. We were taking pictures outside of they got their name on it. You go in, and some people, we went into their actual office. Some people had like little small conference rooms on the side. But it
Yeah.
was it was a little intimidating, because you're sitting there, talking about talking to somebody that can, some people got like they write up stuff that they have at Congress, that they actually have a bill. Like, so it's like, here's a
Okay.
bill that you want you to support. Can you support this bill? Or we know a senator that has a relationship with that is actually promoting a bill. For example,
Mm.
there's someone that got a bill about making there be a minimum standard for tax preparer. So you can go to Bob Casey or whoever your senator is and say, hey, can you get behind this? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
those are
Yeah. Yeah.
you would advocate for. So that's one of the things we were doing. Like, can you get behind some of these bills that are coming down? Here's the reason why. Don't you want somebody professional doing your taxes that is
Yeah.
licensed, that has taken classes, and you don't want anybody to show up and do it. It's
For
like
sure.
it's really common sense stuff. But it's good to be an advocate, to put it on top of the hair. We wind up sending emails after we're done. And they responded. I mean, it's actually like they are in tune with you. The one cool, well, that's the city unique thing. So you don't always get to talk to Bob Casey, right? But you'll get to talk to like their legislative assistant or whatever. But
Okay.
sometimes the legislative assistants are like 23 years old, and they're young people. So you're sitting there like having this conversation with somebody your kid's age. You know what I mean? So
Right. Right. Right.
that some of that was caught you off guard as well, where
Right.
like, and this is a like I just to go deeper on it, it's like, this is a job. You know what I mean? This is like another career opportunity just
Yes.
for humans, of like, there's legislative assistants and
Yeah.
legislative associates. Like there's little jobs that people don't even think of. And these kids are sharp. Like
Yeah.
they know all about what you're talking about. They're like, oh, I know about that bill, and this person brought it down, blah, blah, blah. I'll talk to the senator, but like they sharp. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
I was in awe with that too, of just having young children and like looking at somebody like they're like, yeah, but your parents are proud of you. Like you're doing like I like my
Yeah.
talking to when the kids like you're doing really well for yourself to be a 25-year-old kid
Yeah.
talking to an organization about how to improve taxpayer advocacy stuff. Like it was just kind of cool. But the House and Senate is just I got to sit in on the I actually went into Congress. They have an alley upstairs, so you can
Okay.
actually sit and watch over as they're presiding over different bills.
Okay.
I would just say to your audience, like if you are in the DC area, it's free. You can go into
Yeah.
Capitol Hill. They got a lunchroom in there. The food is pretty decent, but you can go in there, hang out, go visit your senator, say hi to them, and if you do, you can get passes from them, and you can go sit in the alley of the Congress and actually watch bills being
Okay.
made and argued. So I thought it was a great experience. I would probably do it yearly, but it was awesome. It was a great. It was called Fly.
Man, that is dope. First of all, and it just makes me think that a lot of times things become, if you're in that box, or if you're not even thinking about outside the box, that a lot of these things become unattainable or
Right,
untouchable. You know
right,
what I mean? And
right,
because they became unattainable or untouchable in our mind, we remove ourselves from even the possibility of being involved in those things in any
right,
way. And you never know, because a lot of people don't necessarily have that like dream, if you will,
right,
but
right,
you just
right,
never know when you're exposed to different things how that might resonate with you in the future
right.
and what ideas it may give to you. So I think it's dope that you did it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that it's something that people can now realize it's really not necessarily a big deal in terms of the ability to go there,
Right, right,
participate, and
right, right,
experience it. That's
right,
a big
right,
deal in the whole bigger scheme of it.
right.
But man, that's dope. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
what's
it
up.
was cool. It was cool. I'm out my box, man. It's kind of cool to be outside of the box, man.
There it
Get out the
is.
box.
All right, look, we're gonna play this game called I call it Imagine If.
Okay.
All right, imagine if. I got a couple questions for you. All right, imagine if Hudson Tax Services could expand globally overnight.
Mm,
Which country would you choose to start your first international office, and why?
interesting. I would say Australia. Only
Okay.
because, like I said, I was in Sydney. I think Australia, and this is going to sound like not as thoughtful, but it's like America. And Australia is the
Okay.
closest thing that I went to that was American like, and I
Okay.
think I would start there because I think I can navigate that space because it was. I called it Bizarro America. It was similar. It
Okay.
was probably the most similar place that I went to out of the 20 semi countries that I related more to
Okay.
the atmosphere, the way people move, the housing. Um, it was America like. So I think if I set up there, I think I can navigate that space easier. That's the only reason why I would choose it because of the ease of setup.
Got it. Got it.
So that would be
Bizarro.
I called it Bizarro
Bizarro.
America because they
Bizarro.
drive on the other side of the road.
Okay.
Everybody was nicer. Like everywhere I went, people were kind, and it was like it was oddly kind. I'm like, why everybody like we from Philly. We're like, why you
Yeah.
being so nice to me? What do
What
you
you
want?
want from?
What do
Yes.
you want? I was like that. And Marcy was like, yo, you gotta chill. I'm like, I don't know
Right.
why everybody's like all up, but it was something to really get kind of used to. But
Yeah.
again, it was still felt America. They still had, felt like you were in America. The building, just the way things are created there or built
Okay.
there, felt like home. They got the
Word.
subway, blah 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 blah. So yeah, I think I could set up shop there with
Okay.
ease. Yeah.
All right. Imagine if you could have dinner, cigars, and drinks with any three historical figures, dead or alive, doesn't matter who they are. Who would you go to dinner with and have cigars and
Oh,
drinks with?
So George Biddle Kelly, he's one of the seven jewels of Alpha. He was
Okay.
also a tax professional.
Okay.
So I would want to sit down with him just with the whole starting Alpha as a fraternity, as well as the business mind that he had. So I would want to sit down with him.
Shout out to the Alphas.
Shout out to the Alphas. Oh, so I'm trying to think. George Biddle Kelly, dead or alive? I want to sit down with Mike Jordan just because he's Mike Jordan. Like, I don't know.
Okay. All right. All
Like,
right.
I mean, that's the bull.
There it is.
Mike Jordan. I don't
He
know what
probably
we'll
smoking
talk
some
about. You know,
smoke. Probably smoking some
I could
good
smoke a
cigars.
cigar though. He would appreciate a good. You know,
Yeah,
I could probably definitely sit down, just bust it up, and
for
just hear
sure.
some stories that ain't make ESPN. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
talk to me. Um. Wow. Um. I would think about like a Barack Obama just to like,
Okay.
and not so much because it's like I would want to have like a real conversation. You know what I mean? Like, yo,
Right.
you was the first black president. Like, what did you go through? Like, how was
Right.
that? And how do you feel about like navigating all that? Like, that had to
Yeah.
really be a struggle of like, black folks like, oh, we got a president. You know what I mean? But he's like, I ain't y'all president. Like, you know,
Right.
what I mean? I'm everybody. But I know in his head, he's still like, I want to look out for my people, and just trying to
Right.
navigate that space and being in this whitewashed world. Like,
Right.
how did that
Right.
feel? Like, I would want to just have a real convo with them. That's like a no holds bar. This ain't on video.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
curse at me, bro. Like, what was it like dealing with folks? Like, you know what I mean? I want you to
Yeah.
give me the rawness. So,
For sure.
yeah, I would want to have that kind of conversation with Barack.
Yeah,
For
that would be
sure.
dope. That would be okay. That would no, it'll be a dope dinner though, for sure.
Definitely,
All
definitely.
right, last one. Imagine if you can go back in time
Mm-hmm.
and give your teenage self one piece of advice. What would it be and why?
Mm. And probably, don't stay in the box, man. It would that would be it. Like I think as a teenager, I didn't have no like vision. I think I would give myself some kind of advice to just say, like, work hard, do good, like work hard in a sense of with a purpose. I
Hmm.
don't think when I was just, I think I just kind of live my life of just not being thoughtful, not having a trajectory of where I wanted to go. Like, I
Yeah.
would probably give myself some advice of like, be more thoughtful of what you're doing. Like, think about
Hmm.
your future. Like what they say, expand your horizons or whatever. Like, just really
Okay.
just think outside of the box,
Okay.
and take on risks. I think that would be the advice. Think outside of your box, take on risk, and care. Try harder. Like, I
Yeah.
really just was one of them kids that just did whatever. I didn't care.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get past. If I got a D plus, do I pass or did I not pass? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
what
Right.
what do I need to pass? Is it a C or a
Right.
D? Like, but I
Right.
really was that kid. So I think I would like take it a little bit more serious. Um, don't put yourself in a box. And jump on opportunities as they come up. So
There it is.
there you go.
All right. Look, I only got a couple more questions.
Sure.
And what I want to know is, you designed your life. You've kind of you on this space outside the box and doing things
Right.
that you want to do. Really, that's in alignment with like your own passions and your dreams.
Right.
So, what advice would you have for a young person that they have a dream,
Mm-hmm.
they have a passion for something that they want to do, right? But they have fear and they don't have any real support for this particular thing that they want to
Mm,
do, that they're dreaming about, that they really like, they can't stop thinking about it, but they're
right.
fearful and they don't have any support from the people that really matter in their life. What would you tell him or her?
I would say dive in. Dive in, go for it. I would say sometimes you're not going to have support. It's just the way life is. Like, I go back to your quote, don't let somebody else's fear steal your dream. Like, it
Yeah.
is, go for what you feel, especially when you're young. And like I was talking about my child, if you have a parent or someone that can kind of like as a resource that can pick you up if you were to fail, that's a
Mm-hmm.
good thing. If you don't have that, you're still young. Where if you do fail, you still got enough time to still get back on your feet. It ain't like if
Yeah.
you're young, a younger age, you're in your 20s, your life ain't even start yet. So just as a
Right.
50-year-old person, let me tell you, you ain't did nothing. So take
Right.
the risk. Take the risk because you might take this risk and succeed beyond your dreams even imagine. But what you
Yeah.
don't want is that resentment feeling of tag. I never pursued something that I
Yeah.
wanted to do, and then I waited to X amount of years later to pursue it, and you don't get the fruits of this labor like you would have, right? So it's like just go for it. I think more people fail than succeed, right? So you need to
Yeah.
like go out there and keep failing. So then you know what failure looks like, and then
Mm-hmm.
you can learn how to succeed because you went down a path of failure. A lot of people are so
Yeah.
scared to fail because you're like, oh, I fell. Like that's what people do. Like you
Yeah.
need to fail
It's a
to know
part
what
of it.
success looks like. Yeah, it's part of it. And a lot of
Yeah.
people don't see people failures. So yeah, so I would say go for it and go with it. Go for it wholeheartedly. I would say
Yeah.
if there's
Yeah.
something you want to do, go for it, and don't let nobody steal your dream. Just go for it and see what happens. And if you
Mm.
fail, change it up a little bit. You know what I mean, and go after it again. But don't adjust your dream.
Mm.
Adjust your approach, but not the dream
Okay.
itself. You know what I'm
There
saying?
you go. Put it on a t-shirt.
T-shirt. We putting stuff in t-shirt. T-shirt.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Yo, hey Diz, man, thank you so much for your time. How can people get in contact with you? How can people find out more about your business? What's your contact
You know what?
information?
I'll give you my website,
Okay.
www.hudsontaxservices.com. There is a space on there if you wanted to reach out to me. It's like a contact, and you can, if you drop a message in there, I'll get an email of it. I'm also at, no, I won't give you my email because that's for business people. I don't want a
Okay.
bunch of people email me. But
Yeah, make sure you give out the right stuff.
yeah, HudsonTaxService.com is the best because then I can
Okay.
if you send a message in there, I will get it directly. And then even if you want to talk about anything that I spoke about today, you can reach out to me on there. It comes directly in my email and just say, hey, I saw you on a podcast. I would love to, hear more about this, or I would like to be mentored. Like, I'm
Yeah.
game for something like that as well. You can always reach out to me. You want to hear more about the tax business or whatever. So hit me up on my website.
There it is. There it
Yep.
is. Diz. Well, everybody know he's Desmond. I've been calling
No,
him Diz for some, that's I can't switch that up. So Diz, thank you so much for
I
your time. I
appreciate you.
appreciate your time currency. I know this is your off season and
Nah,
this is valuable time for me. So I really appreciate it and
right,
thank
right.
you so much for your time, man. Hold on one second.
So before you, oh
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
no
Go
no
ahead.
no no, I just wanted to give you some love. You talk about flowers. I do want to say I'm proud of you, Coach Bay. I know you
Oh
as
man.
I call you but
Yeah, yeah.
no, I mean you got a book. Like I've known you for a very long time, and
Yeah.
we had a whole college life, and this is right here, like, and I'm
Yeah.
seeing you. You've always been like a really positive human. You think about our crew, like you've always just been a really good dude, and I'm just really proud to see you in this space, and you're kind of giving back to the youth in so many different ways. And I'm very 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 proud of you. I think you're like the poster child of somebody that should be doing something like this. We need
Man.
more folks like you. So I'm happy that you brought me on, and I'm happy that I got to share my story. But you have a whole story that I'm hopefully you're sharing as you go through these podcasts that people need to hear.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, man. So
No, man, I appreciate you, man. We got to pull out the tissues after all this, man.
no,
We got
no, I'm definitely want to give you
no,
your flowers,
no,
man.
I appreciate you, man. It's all heart stuff. It's love stuff, and it's I think about the past and all the mistakes, and
Right, right,
I think about I have this thing when I think about my children about breaking the cycle,
right,
and
right,
I call
right,
it the breaking the cycle of mediocrity or
right,
worse.
right.
And You know, so a lot of this stuff is just natural, normal stuff. It's kind of who I've always been,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, no, this is definitely an exciting year for me. You know, for sure, because you definitely you got the book, you got the podcast, but
Right.
I got my daughter,
Yeah. Got a couple
who
kids
just
like you pocket. It's
yeah
crazy. It's
yeah
crazy. Pop oh. Let's
yeah, like my man Clarky. Big shout out to Clarky. Go pop dad.
pop. Exactly.
Yeah, but they keep me young, man. They keep me young. They keep me young. I gotta keep it, and my
Yeah.
wife, exactly. I gotta give a shout out to her because
Listen.
I couldn't do it
Yes.
without her for sure, for sure.
Facts.
But
But yeah, I
hold
just
on
want
one
to give you some
second.
love. Go ahead. I
No,
just
I
give you some love.
appreciate you. I appreciate you. Hey, man, this has been another exciting conversation with a good family member. You know, Diz is fam. It's nothing less than that. But again, these conversations it's an opportunity for me to catch up with some friends, but it's also an opportunity to share with you some things that we probably wish that we would have had, years and years ago. Some tips, some jewels, some resources that hopefully will propel you and encourage you and inspire you to have expectations beyond what you might see in your immediate space. So I always say, remember that you are a champion, and it's your duty to yourself to believe it. Stay tuned. We're going to be back next week with another great guest. Design your life. We gone. Peace.
Design your life.
You gotta dream it, like you mean it. Embrace the vision, no need to conceal it. Feeling myself, we used to call it so bright. Aim for the stars, reach new heights. Align your life, don't let it design you. Chase your dreams, make them all come true. Dance to the rhythm, move with the beat. You're the creator, get up on your feet. Yeah, you gotta dream it, like you mean it. Embrace the vision, no need to conceal it. Daydream as the beast, the color so bright. Aim for the stars, reach new heights. Design your life, don't let it design you. Chase your dreams, make them all come true. Dance to the rhythm, move with the beat. You're the creator, get up on your feet.